Right then, stream number 1 of 2 for today. It is September 11th, Patriot Day. If you are watching in the US, if you are remembering the events of September 11, of course, our thoughts are with you. It's been an auspicious week here in the UK as well, so I've been receiving a number of messages regarding the loss of Queen Elizabeth II here in the UK. It's very difficult for me to kind of comment on that because while I'm not a massive royalist, it's not something that I really discuss or really kind of talk about. I have a great deal of admiration for Queen Elizabeth II, the family. I have thoughts and opinions about, but people have kind of messaged me and taken the Twitter handle of an Englishman in San Diego, like I'm a representative of all Brits. It's difficult for me to kind of deal with that. But yes, that's basically all I really I'm going to say about that. But this particular stream is going out to our Patreon supporters, and I know I don't have the largest Patreon audience, but this is a way for me to say thank you to you for your kind support. It came off the back of a Twitter blast out because I had a number of guests drop out on me a couple of weeks ago, and I just said if anyone wants to come on and talk, and I had a number of people turning around and saying that they would like to come on and talk. And yes, we're going to be speaking to Robin Jones, and about Thunderchild, and we're going to do that at 6 o'clock. But this is a way for us to give back with this exclusive stream to our Patreon supporters. Now, as it happens, what I am going to do is I'm going to post this to everybody else on Thursday. So at 6 o'clock, we're going to do this as a YouTube premiere, so everyone else can watch as well. But if you are a Patreon supporter, this doesn't mean that you can watch live. You can also watch at any point on the Patreon page. And it's my way to say thank you very much indeed for all of your support, and just a way for me to give back with a great conversation with someone who I think is an amazing comic creator. And we're going to be talking to Gustafo Vargas after this. Right then. Hello there, everybody. Welcome along to Talking Con, a cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego. My name's Leonard Sultana, and each and every Sunday we talk comics, Comic Cons, and all the stuff and nonsense we get to enjoy at such shows, and we usually go live at 6 o'clock. This particular episode will be going live at 6, but on Thursday, which is what's that? The 15th. And that's for everybody else. As it happens, this is actually a live stream going out at 4 p.m. on Sunday afternoon, exclusively to my Patreon supporters. This is a way for me to have a very special conversation with a very special creator, but also a way for us to give back to our amazing supporters at patreon.com/EnglishmanSTCC. I am always incredibly grateful for every penny, every dollar that is donated to our Patreon. As it happens, I don't take a penny of that. It goes straight to either the hosting fees, the bits and pieces that we use to kind of make the site work at theconventioncollective.com, or it pays all of our writers and contributors, all of which have been incredibly busy at recent shows, such as San Diego Comic Con, Emerald City, and I know a number of them at Rose City this weekend as well. And I believe Dan Berry is at D23 this weekend as well. So plenty of shows which we're getting lots of coverage from, and we're putting up at either theconventioncollective.com or all of our socials. Patreon is a way for us to give our contributors as much as we possibly can back, to support them, to say thank you to them, and in that regard, you're thanking them for all of their hard work. So there you go. If you are watching this live on Patreon, thank you so much indeed. Of course, if you have any questions to our guests, do let us know. However, like I say, we are going to be premiering this on YouTube on Thursday. It's going to be another kind of way for the Q&A to run. So if you have any questions, I think my guest is actually going to say, he said he might be free on Thursday. So he might just jump on the Q&A as well to kind of do a bit of a behind the scenes commentary to the conversation we're going to have. Confusing? Listen, just for 30 minutes, 40 minutes, deal with it. All right. Have yourself a good time with us and a good afternoon with us as we talk with the rather wonderful and marvelous Gustafo Vargas, who's joining us. Hello there, sir. How the devil are you? Oh, hang on.
Yes,
That.
after your
There you
words, I couldn't feel better. Yeah.
go. Oh,
I
my
would.
word. Listen, thank you so much indeed for coming on and doing this. Like I say, it's a bit of an outlier. It's a bit of a strange conversation, but it's good because it allows us to talk to you. We're not sharing time with you. We're not kind of then cutting things short and disappearing and talking about other conventions that are happening this weekend, of which there are a few. We're not kind of sharing off and sort of like cutting you off as best we can. We're talking just to you. So it's great to have you join us. You have been on the show before, and we have asked you our usual three questions. Question number one is, what tea are you drinking? What is your beverage of choice for today? What have you got to hand?
I'm being very, very healthy today. So
Good
it's
man. Good
yeah,
man.
I was out yesterday, so it's kind of
Fair
refueling
enough.
the body with something nice and healthy. Just
Okay.
cleaning myself up.
Okay. In that case, I am going to come up with two more additional bonus questions, and we'll see if I can put you on the spot, just so people can find out a little bit more about you. Perhaps they may not know too much about your work, but yeah, let's go with this one. And it's a question I used to ask way back when we first started the Cup of Tea, which is about your introduction to comics and that one book that kind of got you into it. But I come at it from a slightly different angle, because there's everyone that remembers maybe their first comics and the comics they read growing up. But there's always that one book where you suddenly realize that there are minds behind the work. You know what I mean? That light bulb goes on. So like
Yeah,
either in your early teens or you're reading it and you suddenly go, hang on a second, someone's published this, someone's had to write this, someone's had to draw this. Instead of the comics just magically appearing,
yeah.
somebody actually came along and did this. Do you remember what the first book that you read where you suddenly paid attention to the credits and went, hang on a second?
This is a great question because I had exactly the book just
Oh,
behind me, I guess, which is literally it's a book.
oh, wow.
Well, it's literatura de la imagen. That would be like literature of the image. And I was lucky enough to have this since I was, if you can see, it's even a bit
It's
worn.
well worn and well
Yeah,
read.
yeah. So I had it since I was maybe 6 or 7. I mean, my dad had a big collection of books, and this was part of a big collection of books of different themes, like I don't know, any kind of things, and one was about comics. And as you can see, even only from the cover, it had everything from superheroes to
Yeah.
fumetti to cartoons. So since a very early age, it was kind of very obvious to me that comics was a full medium and not so much exactly like usually you think like, oh, this appears, I don't know, somebody pushes a button and comes the next issue
Yeah.
of whatever was your favorite comic when you were discovering them. and then realizing, oh, there's a writer or there's a full author or something like that. So I was very lucky because it was not easy for me to find comics when I was in Peru in the 80s. You have to really go to second-hand stalls in the streets and go through, I don't know, piles and piles of magazines to find some comics. And always, like, you would find Spider-Man number 200 and a Spider-Man number 237, and that was it. Any superhero comic for me ended with a cliffhanger. That was my my normal reading. But this one was the one that really got me completely in love with comics, made me understand that the medium was very broad.
When did you get that book? Because, like I say, it
Uh,
looked very, very well read.
I think
How old were you?
I was like 6 or 7, so the middle of the 80s, let's say. So, and this is a book from the 70s, I think. This book has been with me since basically almost. It's my first Bible.
Yeah, yeah. I can imagine that's not going anywhere anytime soon.
No,
If you moved house and that went missing, you'd be distraught.
not that.
Who
That's the
who
book. Yeah.
yeah, who got that for you? Was it something that you found in a bookstore somewhere, or did a parent or a sibling get that for you?
Yeah. No, actually, my dad it was part of a big collection of different themes. So it was maybe like 100 different books with different themes. And this one was the thing was comics. So my dad actually he had many books. He used to be a fine artist, and then he got into he was a script writer at not script writer. When you write for an advertising company, what's a script writer? It's not. It's when you make ideas for advertising in commercials.
Copywriter.
Copywriter.
Yeah.
He was a copywriter, but very much he would like to illustrate a lot and visual. So he studied arts before. So he was always getting books, and he would get me many things that to the three of us, to me and my two brothers too, that he would find visually interesting or enriching to our to the house, to their kids. So basically, I always had definitely a lot of imagery around to play with, and if he would find a comic, he would bring it to me whenever he could. Even because he was working on this advertising company, sometimes he had friends that would lend him some comics because they collected comics. So I had sometimes a couple of comics, and sometimes it was a length of a length, so he couldn't borrow the comic, but he would bring me some photocopies. So my first Killing Joke, my first Running, were six,
Wow.
7 pages in photocopy that I could watch them for ages until like 5, 10 years afterwards. It was like, oh, okay, that's how it looks in color. No, I get the story. But it was like,
I can imagine then it was because you often find with comic creators, artists, writers, people who say that okay, I'm going to make comics. You'll get a family member, or you'll get some kind of supposedly wise voice turning around saying, okay, maybe this is a fad, and one day you'll get a proper job.
yeah,
It sounds like you were supported in
yeah.
endeavoring in comics from the word go, because you had a creative family that understood
I,
that passion.
I was very lucky since the beginning. So actually, it was the other way around. He would completely invest money and things for us to make things. Eventually, I even studied fine arts, which is a very expensive career, and it's not a career where you're going to make money and be established and get a job or something like that. So and I actually studied fine arts because I couldn't find it was the closest thing to illustration and making comics, but it created something like a gap. So it took a while. I learned animation, started working, and years of, and I kind of forgot that I wanted to really make comics. And it was basically some years after that that I remembered that and ran out of excuses of not making comics and basically started making comics. But it took some steps for me to remember.
Cool. And the other question I used to like to ask, and it's someone I still like asking this one, because there has to be, as well as that moment when you discovered about the craft of making comics, then you have to kind of understand your own skill level and your own ability to do that. I mean, there are some people that will have that kind of imposter syndrome floating around in the back of their head, but there has got to be that moment where you just go, you know what, I can do this. And I think I can do this. I think I can make a career out of this. Do you remember what the first piece that you did or the first book that you wrote where you just went, you know what, I could stand behind that. I can do this.
I think probably that was with Manu, my third book. I guess so. Because the imposter syndrome, even until now, sometimes it comes back and haunts you. It's just part of the business. It's always there. Sometimes you see an illustration you've made and it's like, wow, this, I don't know, this is just bad. You put it aside, see it the next day, and it works out completely fine. So it's just your brain playing tricks with you. But I think it was Manu, because Trujillo was the first one that I really published in the UK, and followed by Lima. But I was still kind of like very excited, putting all my passion to it, but not completely sure. But I was already collecting impressions of people, which helps you to think, okay, maybe I'm not sure, but if these people are telling me that it's interesting, maybe it's really interesting, right? Maybe I'm lying too much to myself. And with Manu, I saw they received it greatly, so it kind of felt very much. And I think it was the first one I launched in Thought Bubble, which creating a bit of a buzz. It was a bit noisy how it was received. So I guess that's the one that was like, yeah, okay.
I think you could, most people as well. I mean, the answers I usually got was, it was the first one I got some money for. And then there's always the answers I get is when I have my support system, my people I admire, people I respect, turning around and saying, you know what, that works. Do you remember who those people were, and are there still some of those bodies and people kind of in your support circle, as it were, kind of keeping you on the straight line?
Yeah, definitely the scrollers, Russell Mark Olson, Pete Taylor, Martin Simpson, Mark Hughes, and many other names that I will definitely forget. But their attitude, and in general, for example, Alex Pagnadel was very excited when he saw Lima. So little by little, you start collecting these names, and the same, because you see readers that like your work, and then you see your peers, and then you see actual professionals kind of appearing, and it's like, okay. And actually that felt even stronger with Puno, because it was the first Kickstarter I ran, and I was trying to avoid running just because I was too afraid of running a Kickstarter. Now I'm getting used to it, because it's a lot. It's very interesting. It's a powerful tool, the crowdfunding funding, but it asks a lot of you. But I remember that it was Rambi, Shelley Bond, and even Brian by Michael Bendix backed Puno, and I was like, I don't know how, but those kind of things really like hit me like, wow, okay. So it's a bit, Manu is the one, but Puno maybe is the one that really cemented that feeling that I think I can be doing that. And while I was doing Puno, I was already working as a full freelance at the time. So it was like they were really paying me money for making comics, which also gives you some kind of reassurance that, yeah, it's working somehow.
It's a question that I don't think I've really tackled a lot when I've covered Kickstarter campaigns on the show, because I know that it takes a lot of work and a lot of effort. But is Kickstarter for comic creators, the ones that really do Kickstarter well and get, like you say, the best rewards out of it, are they the ones that use Kickstarter more like a social media platform, where it is very much a lot of time and effort communicating with that audience? Or is Kickstarter supported by everything else? where do you put the tierage when you're actually running a campaign? Do you spend a lot of time on Kickstarter, or is it other social media supporting it?
More like around. So I try to put it everywhere because Kickstarting is already doing that part of the job on their platform for you. So if you made something that is interesting, not too boring to read, and visually attractive, you already have at least the basics that Kickstarter is going to get interested in your campaign. So you already have people investing time there. So you're actually trying to pick more people out of Kickstarter. But at the same time, communication, exactly what you were saying, is key. I didn't worry that much, and just I try to be as much myself as I can, because that's not a decision either. That's that's how it comes, and I feel like people like can enjoy my work, but they also like honest voices, honest creators, people really having a very honest attitude about how they manage their things. So I get very excited about things, very passionate, very loud, and in any moment that they ask me something, maybe any kind of commentary, or maybe tell me, can you please, maybe if we can add this to your campaign or anything like that, because you're actually working behind the scene a lot, even though it doesn't show that much. That really builds up a readership of people that really count of you, and are also interested in your work and in yourself, which is basically you have from both sides. They like you and they like your comics, which is great.
Cool. It makes sense. I mean, I'm also curious, and I'm going to be asking this a lot more over the course of the next year or so, especially now that conventions are coming back, slightly more traditional ways of communicating and interacting with the audience. How important was Kickstarter and Indiegogo and crowdfunding, do you feel, over the course of lockdown and pandemic, when you weren't able to go to conventions and see people face to face? How, and also just kind of get the sales and the momentum of an income out of
Yeah,
comics? How important was Kickstarter and crowdfunding to you personally,
yeah,
to maintain a career?
it was massive. It was very, very big, because that's as I told you, I didn't want to tackle the Kickstarter box because I was planning on releasing Puno. Uh, Puno on the next thought bubble. That wasn't going to happen physically. So I said I need to get to more people, because it's not going to work out. That's when I decided to run the Kickstarter, and actually it got to even more people than the usual convention, because normally Kickstarter thought bubble, you have mainly people from UK, many people from Europe, some people from USA, but it's mainly it runs in UK, and this one actually broke a bit into USA. I had like maybe 30 tops to 35% of my backers were from USA, and a solid 15%, 10% were also from other parts of Europe. So yeah, no, it was really, really big. It made a huge impact, and I try to keep on making the same with my last one, Pilcuyo, being trying to keep those backers interested, trying to give them the best I can, and also keeping them updated. Especially, I don't know if you remember, but I was stranded in Peru for I
Yes.
I went for a month and I stayed for months. That wasn't my
Mm.
decision, uh, and that was also, I was really afraid. I was because I really wanted to check the book by myself and be sure that it was going to be printed as I wanted it to be, so you really receive your money back in a way, right? I'm trying to give you the best product I can, and people were fully understanding. I haven't had one message of somebody telling me, you know what, I'm tired of waiting, and it should have been, I want my money back. Nothing. So that's a great thing. It's a great tool for communicating and basically putting your work outside. It's very, very interesting.
I think a lot of people discovered Kickstarter as well over the course of pandemic as that kind of tool to reach an audience.
I
How
guess so.
important is Kickstarter choice, where they put a spotlight on a project? Because there are so many projects going to Kickstarter now, and it is becoming a very busy and
Yeah.
noisy in some regards kind of platform. How important is having the Kickstarter choice being put on you, and how active can you be to kind of make that happen? I mean, what's the
You,
communication you have with Kickstarter to kind of get them to
yeah.
showcase your work?
Yeah. No, definitely you feel it because, like I was telling you, you feel like it keeps you really busy. So you're communicating all the time and dealing with things and replying to hundreds of emails, peoples, and things. So I think I've never had the two Kickstarters I ran. I on both I was lucky enough to have the spotlight. So I wouldn't know how to compare to one that wasn't that had that much light on top of it. But you definitely feel it. It keeps you very busy, even through usually in the middle of your campaign. It tends to be really, really slow, but still you could feel like one or two backers would appear and still you feel it moving and not being completely stuck, because
Yeah.
usually it's like when it starts it's crazy, it turns to go up but not so fast depending on, and towards the end it's the same, it tends to be a bit explosive.
I do I mean, as somebody who's never run a Kickstarter, I do kind of wonder what that. I mean, because obviously you get that initial hit, and people are really excited about the campaign, and then it kind of like it tapers off. Obviously, as that all your hardcore backers are in there,
Yeah.
and then you're halfway through the campaign, and you're just wondering. And then I can imagine that's when the sleepless nights kick in, and you're just going, "Will this go over the? Where am I going to end up with this campaign? What's going to happen with it?" Yeah, it's just the running of a metrics. I don't know if I could deal with that kind of stress,
it's
quite frankly. It sounds like a bizarre setup.
it,
But let's talk about the conventions then, because like I say, for me, it seems that is the traditional way of interacting and getting an audience, and definitely getting money off people. It's the straightforward face-to-face selling. Are you back to doing conventions? When was your first one back?
Yes. I'm going back to, similar to last year. I'm going back to the lakes
All
in
right. Okay.
October. Yeah, and where is it? They changed from Kendall to Windermere.
Indeed.
So, and it's going to be a first time in this case. So I'm very curious about it, and I'm very excited. Maybe I'm very biased. I wasn't sure if going or not, but when they mentioned Jaime Hernandez, it was just kind of unavoidable. It was like, oh, yeah, let's
And
go.
when was the first show that you went back? And because obviously there was a lot of creators that were very apprehensive about getting back in front of crowds. But when did you feel comfortable about going back in front of a convention audience?
Uh, it was, I think, last previous the lakes. I think that was the
Oh,
first
well,
one.
so it was. So we're talking, yeah, coming
Yeah,
up to 12 months. Yeah.
I was already there, and it's a bit like basically you take the compromise, you make your decision. I'm going to be in, or if you're really not sure about it, you just get out, and then you don't attend until you feel really safe. And because I I don't know how you could handle if you feel too stressed over it and trying to go and trying to be on your table. That would be just too much. I know some artists couldn't feel comfortable in the end, and just because of the stress and because many times you have to interact so much with people and being overwhelmed. It's very overwhelming as it is. It's very exciting, but at the same time you're all the time engaged in conversations, in selling and talking projects, things, networking. And if you're not prepared to that hype of so much action there, it's going to be too much for you. So I
Mm.
completely understand people that didn't didn't start going to conventions, or were waiting maybe for this year or something like that. For me, it was amazing. I was missing it too much. It's my best friends I see in conventions, and I really like talking to people. I Of course, I love selling my books, but the actual and the Kickstarter connections that I have, but there's something. It's a bit like digital is great, but if I have it on paper, it's even better. It's
Sure.
the same. Digital is amazing, but if I see your face next, just in front of me in the same space, that's even better, right?
I think Lakes is probably, I mean, for myself, the first convention I went back to was a convention called Meanwhile Comic Con, which was a show that was under a tent. So it was a very airy. There was a lot of space for people to kind of have a bit of distance to. Yes, everyone was wearing masks, but it was a case of it felt a little bit free. And I think from my experience at Lakes when it's been held in Kendall as well, even though there are some, say, like the Clock Tower, which feel like a traditional convention, it still feels very tall, and there's a bit of space, and there's the ability to kind of declimatize from not seeing people for some time, because you've got that ability to have a bit of space with people. When you have something like an MCM, or you have a thought bubble where it is table to table to table, and it's all very kind of lots of crowd, I think that kind of decompression and going into a show like Lakes, is that something that appeals to you, especially when it comes to Lakes, because that's just around the corner. It's not that far away now. Is it something that appeals to you rather than, say, like a show like Thought Bubble, where it is very kind of close quarters, where you have that kind of ability to feel a little bit more open air?
Yeah, I think I enjoyed very much. Yeah, but you're absolutely right. Feels different. I feel like I can explore
It
a bit
feels like
more.
a festival. Calling it a convention doesn't sound right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I feel like you can feels easier to explore a bit more and leave your table without so much stress as it is in Thought Bubble, that you feel like if you go just to the toilet, it's like I think I'm missing a lot of people, and I don't know. It engages a bit less. It's less fast in a way. Feels less rushed. It's less intense, and it's really nice. It's and also you will see a lot of other creators and plenty other people that you won't see at Thought Bubble. Some you will, but many you won't, especially for the guests they have. I enjoyed very much. I have different kind of conversations, I guess, even with people. It works out very differently, but I don't. I enjoy both actually, but I know I have to be more kind of like a bit more prepared for Thought Bubble because it's a bit more intense. I've never been to an MCN even as a visitor, so I don't know, but I know it's even more energy it takes from you as I've heard. Yeah.
Sure. And when it comes to conventions, obviously, it's about the books that you also have to sell, and the projects that you've been involved in. Where are you at the moment with anything new, say, for example, since last year? I mean, what have you got to bring to people if you want to kind of take this opportunity to tell people about projects that you've got, new books that perhaps they saw you at Lakes last year, saw you at Thought Bubble last year. You've got Lakes coming up, you've got Thought Bubble on the way. What are you going to be bringing to them this year?
Yeah, the big thing it's my last book, Pilcuyo, that it finally was finished now in June, and it's the closure to my trilogy basically, which is Manu, Uno, and Pilcuyo. So this is all these three together are one book, one story.
I'm familiar with the book. We did that special episode all about it when we were bringing it out, and it was great to be involved in just kind of spreading the word about that book. How's it gone down in terms of its reception, especially when you've got those two great books to lead into it? How's it been received?
Until now, people have told me that they really
and see the
enjoy
whole
it.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I was very nervous because it's the first time. My previous books, Lima and Trujillo, were one shots, so I knew the ending was there, even though it becomes to the same world. But this one was a story I had in my head for the last 3 4 years, but the ending was happening just now, so I wasn't sure. Like, it sounded good 4 years ago. I'm not sure anymore if it's going to make sense, if people are going to receive it well, what's going to happen. So I was very nervous about finishing something so big, and maybe because even to my fellow peers, I asked them, please, if you have any kind of criticism notes, bring it to me, because that's the only way you can get better and learn from your mistakes. But in general, it's been really well received. I'm incredibly, uh, I don't know, I feel relieved basically that it's not a mess. So yeah, that's the big thing that I'm going to have at these new conventions. And probably we will have also Scroll 2 at Thought Bubble. Scroll 2.
All right, okay.
Yeah, yeah, it
Tell
should
us
be.
about that.
Yeah, we're still finishing it, and it should be ready. Maybe not for the lakes, but it should be ready uh, for Thought Bubble, which is Scroll One was this anthology magazine we did with the scrollers that are Russell Mark Olson, Pete Taylor, Mark Hughes, Nick Prolix, Martin Simpson. It's like a bit more than 100 pages, magazine size. Actually, I have it here. It's a hefty, beautiful book, full of color, and we will release the issue 2 that has an interview with Shelley Bond. It involves Leah Moore. David Rubin is going to make some pages. Works from me. It's a very exciting project. So that's the other new thing that we will definitely release. Very, very excited about it. I'm actually doing something very different than the things I usually do myself. I don't know if if I can share my screen.
By all means, if you can. Yeah. I'll tell you what. While you're doing that, I'll once again explain to everyone while you're searching for that on your desktop. Don't forget, each and every Sunday we are live, and the best way to get notifications about coming with our new shows, even with incidental episodes, ones that are happening outside of our 6 o'clock airtime, is by hitting the notifications. Head down below, hit the notification bell. It will come up. Either you can go for video only or any kind of highlight notification. If you hit all, and of course, like and comment below, and do let us know what you're thinking about, and of course share with us on our socials. Englishman SDCC. If there's anybody that you would like to see on a future episode. Right, have you managed to find it?
Yeah, can you?
Yes, indeed. I can add that to the stream. So there we go.
So that's the cover. Scroll 2. I did the cover for this one, and as my strip, I tried something very different if possible. So I did this story that is basically 3 characters that run all over the place. It's a bit like it's like a board game.
Yeah.
And there's definitely no way for you to read it as a page. You have to follow each one each time and see what's going to happen. So that's one of the things we like to do with Scroll. We don't. If I'm doing Peruvian cyberpunk, I'm not going to do Peruvian cyberpunk on Scroll. It's we tackle to another box, let's say. And if I want to show a couple, yeah, and this is
beautiful.
This is the new book that I'm going to have, the one finishing the trilogy, the Altiplano trilogy, Il Cuyo. I will show just a couple of pages because I know not everybody has received it, and I'm very much anti-spoiler person. So just to have a basic look of how the book is going to look. But wow. It's a 52-page story with cyborgs, battles, and a couple of characters that are going to have some kind of closure, and AI that is a fugitive it's many cyberpunk things mixed with Peruvian influence characters. So that's I'm very excited to bring it, because until now I haven't seen anybody. I haven't seen people's reaction in festivals, which is going to be definitely very much. I'm really looking forward to talk about this with people in conventions.
Well, I've got the first two books. I'm looking forward to getting my hands on this, of course. So looking forward to seeing you at Thought Bubble. Hopefully heading to Lakes. Fingers crossed. I will either be heading up and pitching a tent, or I'll just be making my way up for the day. Either way, I'm going to try and get up at least for a day up at Lakes. But no, Thought Bubble is the big one for me. Definitely looking forward to that. Let's talk about something else, because you briefly talked about it just before we came on air, and I'd love to talk about this on the show as well. Is something else that's keeping you occupied as well? Yeah, you'd like to talk about your advanced education experience.
Yes, that's been a very interesting week for me. I was invited maybe a bit like a month ago to Newcastle University. There was this training school organized by Newcastle University, and it was basically going to be about Iberian and Latin American comics, but it was going to be academics that study comics, and not creators, not people that make comics, but people that study, make papers, and connected to museology and all this other side of comics, and sounded very interesting by itself. And I was invited by Jorge Catalá, that he's the head there on this, and also by Jonathan Subset, that make a mix with a program called Creative Fuse Northeast. I think they had Soy Thorogood and other workshops that run also on the side. So I was going to be highlighted, and I was going to work about my work, my influences, my Peruvian cyberpunk, and also about creators before that have influenced me, like this book that I show you. So it was 3 days. There was names like Alvaro Pons. I'm forgetting names, but anyway, it was a fantastic experience. It was completely from a different perspective, but very refreshing, because your head as a writer also, you need to talk to different people, talk about different things, and the comics medium it's a very broad thing. So it was a fantastic experience. It was very interesting, and I've made a lot of contacts to learn a lot more about comics.
I can imagine we were talking about imposter syndrome earlier. And when you are kind of in that salesman mode at a convention, and you're talking to someone about your work, there is that kind of way of pumping yourself up and turning into a salesman as such. But when you're dealing with talking to people about academics about comics, there's nowhere to hide there. Do you know what I mean? How did that feel in terms of kind of communicating ideas differently than you would say to, well, a layman, as it were?
Yeah, it felt like imposter until I finished, and they told me it was interesting. So I felt like I was trying to tell my story, my influences, and when I finish, you don't know. It's like a joke, right? You don't know if it's going to be funny or not. Some people is like, yeah, that's not funny, or some people is like, wow, that was great, thank you so much, that was a very nice joke. So in the end, because we had also Q&A and conversations about that, it was not only me talking about my work, but also it transformed into a conversation about how I process my work and all that. So, and even afterwards, because it were 3 days, we used to have dinner together and keep on talking about many different things. So it was they most of them we talked different bits about my exposition, and it was really nice. It felt really good. I was like, okay, yeah, makes it kind of like, and something else that makes you think, okay, maybe it's really working out. It's not that bad what I've been writing all this time. It's okay. Yeah. But no, it was a very, very enriching experience. That was great.
Cool. Well, tell you what, I think we'll let you go and enjoy the rest of your Sunday. But before we do, congratulations on everything that you've achieved so far. Very much looking forward to reading Volume 3. Very much looking forward to reading Scroll as well, because I have my copies upstairs. I want to add to that list of Vargas copies that I've got upstairs. Very much looking forward to seeing you at Lakes and at Thought Bubble. Where can people find you online and follow what you're doing and what you're up to? What is your platform of choice?
It's I'm on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And the easiest way to find me is to put my name, Gustafo Vargas, and you will find me. I'm the only Gustafo. Or you can just type in Peruvian cyberpunk, and you will find really easy all my feed, all my work, and the links towards my things. So it's one of those two passwords are the keys to my to my universe.
Excellent. So, is it Twitter, Instagram, which is usually the place where you live?
Yeah, Twitter, Instagram. Yeah, you will find me there putting things all the time.
You see, this is the thing. Whenever we talk to people, and you're sort of like you're reading through, you're doom scrolling through Twitter, and everyone's just going, "Okay, the platform's turning into a hellscape, and it's nothing but negativity." Yeah. And then you speak to creatives, and they're going, "Yeah, that's pretty much where I live." And you're thinking to yourself, okay, either everyone's just some sort of masochist, or they actually are just putting out good into the world and they get good back. And I think that might be.
You have so much misery there that at least you try to put a bit of color, right? Like, oh, horrible. Oh my God, that's horrible. Ooh, I like that. Okay, yeah. Horrible. So at least to give a bit of light, a bit of rhythm, a bit of spice to the world, because Twitter is like everybody at once shouting.
Yeah.
Some
did you see that tweet that went out? It went viral this week. If Twitter was a pub, which is how I imagine it, this is somebody else's words. So if Twitter was a pub, what would you name it? I'll give you a couple of seconds to think about it. I don't know if you'd spotted it, but if you could come up with a name for the pub, and I think I came up with the Sound and Fury. Because it is a Sound and Fury, a story of Sound and Fury signifying nothing for me. It's just it's voices into the wild. So that's what I call my Twitter pub. What would you call your Twitter pub?
Loud and empty, I guess.
Loud and empty. I doubt that very, very much indeed.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Leonard. It was very nice talking to you. I'm really looking forward to see you. If not at the Lakes, definitely at Thought Bubble.
I'm looking forward to seeing you as well. Thank you so much indeed for this. And hopefully you do join us on Thursday. Maybe some people want to jump in with some questions on the Q&A.
Yeah.
When we live stream this.
Enjoy that. Yeah.
Cool. Like I say, this has been a bit of a special one, an incidental episode that we've put together with Gustavo. Like I say, we're going to be, this is for the Patreon supporters. If you are a Patreon supporter, you can watch this on our Patreon page, patreon.com/Englishman SDCC, anytime between now and when we premiere it on YouTube. But if you are watching this after the fact, do go check out Gustafo Vargas for all of his amazing books, because honestly, you will not leave disappointed. The man tells a story and a half. Very, very cool indeed. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. We are going to be back with our 6 o'clock show, our regular show on Talking Con, a cup of tea with Englishmen in San Diego, in just over an hour's time. But hopefully you can join us for that as well. From myself and from Gustafo, take care and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye-bye, everybody.